Welcome, friend. I'm TK, your tour guide to the past, and you are listening to For the Love of History, the podcast where we talk about world history, women's history, and weird history. And today we have a very special guest, one of my favorite people on the internet, your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. We have Katie Charlwood, reader of books, your friendly neighborhood social scientist, and the history harlot. Thank you so much for joining us today, Katie.
Thank you for having me. I'm trying not to clap into the microphone. I'm like holding it back, and I realized I've dropped it because there's a dent on the top, but it's okay.
It's cute. It's pink. If you are only listening to this episode, Katie is all pinked out. She got her pink little...
I only just realized I'm wearing a pink top.
It's great. She's got her pink headphones with the pink little cat ears and the pink microphone and a pink top and then a pink little wristband. And she's just pinked out. I love it. I love it. Pink Fitbit. She's pinked. She is pink.
I am. If I can find it in pink, I will. I actually have a little travel microphone that I clip on, and it is also pink.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love that when people have a favorite color and then they stick to that favorite color. It's cute.
If I can get something that's, if it's not pink, it has to be like pastel shades. If I can find it, I'll get it. It's why my hair is lavender.
Yeah. Well, the topic that we are going to be talking about today is less of pink and more. If I were to give it a color, it would be black. Because today we are going to be talking about Egyptian curses, which I am so stoked about. I love it. So Katie and I have been internet friends for a hot minute, and we finally had the time because it is very, very late for Katie right now when we are recording this episode.
It's almost 1 a.m.
I know. She's doing us a solid. It's like 9 a.m. here, almost 1 a.m. there. And, we're going to talk about Egyptian curses because we can.
We want to.
Exactly. So, Katie, if you haven't heard about her, we're going to plug all of the stuff at the end of the episode. But just in case, Katie is the host and creator of Who Did What Now podcast. She has an absolutely incredible Instagram, social media presence. If you want to learn more than you learned in a history class in 90 seconds, go check out her Instagram. It's incredible. All of the links to all of our things will be in the show notes below. So please go ahead and check out Katie. But don't leave. You got to hear about the Egyptian curses.
Do it later.
Exactly.
Later. Enjoy this, and then you'll find out about me. Yeah, I actually had someone message my friend who didn't realize we were friends, and she was like, "Oh, she's with you. She's a style icon." And I was like, "I'm a style icon? I'll take it."
You are. You're a style icon with all of your glasses and your cute tweeds. I love it.
And the chains now. Yep. I started wearing glasses chains.
I
don't even need those, but I think they're cute.
I think they're cute too. So if you come for the history, you stay for the fashion with Katie. So
that is how it goes. And a lot of my clothing is pre-loved, so sustainable.
Sustainability. We love it. So today we are going to be talking about Egyptian curses, and Katie's going to tell us all about that. So why don't you go ahead and take it away, Katie?
So the interesting thing about Egyptian curses is they're new. They're really, considering how long Egypt has been around, fairly new. So for thousands of years, thousands upon thousands and thousands of years, because Cleopatra lived closer to the creation of the iPhone than she did to those who were buried in the Valley of the Kings. Yeah. It's such a massive thing. So the Egyptian curses only really sort of came about in that sort of 19th, 20th centuries. And so it's because people didn't actually translate hieroglyphics until the 19th century.
Yeah.
And so that's where people started going it, and they went, "Oh, that looks spooky. I wonder what that could mean."
Ooh.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, what's this?" And then death happened. Cruel, icy death to those who disturbed the tombs.
No.
Oh, no, indeed. And there's so much stuff behind it, but I love it so much. I'm going to talk about Tutankhamun in a second. But my favorite one It's not even real, I don't think, but I'm going to talk about it because it's been mentioned so many times throughout, like, history, in the last century anyway, because allegedly, never believe anything that says allegedly, but it's fun, so we're going to talk about it. Allegedly, there was a mummy on the Titanic.
Okay.
And it was the unlucky mummy. A princess called Amun-Ra. And supposedly she was put in the museum. And when she was put in the museum, the security guards kept hearing a sobbing woman just at night. They thought they could hear the muffled sobs coming from the sarcophagus.
Oh no.
And they were like, okay, this isn't cool. So they sell it to a private collector, puts it in his house, and he starts hearing like stuff, and his house burns down. No, his house goes on fire.
Oh my gosh.
Like, okay, that's not great. And so they fix it up, whatever. And then it floods.
Oh my gosh, after it burns?
Yeah. And so then he's like, no, I'm getting rid of this. And so he sells it. And allegedly, this unlucky mummy, it was then sold to another private collector who was like, I'm going to the Americas. And so it goes onto the Titanic. And it's supposed to be part of the mummy's curse that's why the Titanic sunk. And the story goes, they found this board with some hieroglyphics on it, and that's all that remains, and that's now being held in the British Museum.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. There was a Polish explorer, I believe, who opened a tomb, and was he Polish? There was an explorer who opened a tomb. And
possibly Polish.
Possibly Polish. In my brain, I've got Polish. But he'd gone in and he felt weird about taking anything from it because he was reading the hieroglyphics and they were like, oh, this seems a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, this seems a bit weird. And so he ends up not taking like one of the mummies out. He leaves it. And then later on, and when he's curating, these two coffins come in. And it's these children mummy. And so he goes off. He starts seeing things. He starts seeing the ghosts of children. And he's haunted by them like day and night. And so he arranges to have this. He knows there's another coffin in this tomb. So it's the father. And he manages to get it out and then sent to the museum. And then once they were like together, he stopped seeing the children. Like he was getting nightmares about them. He was seeing them like in his house. Like, I think I'm gonna blame gas for this though, because I'm convinced that every hallucination that happened in the mid-Victorian era, unless they were schizophrenic, I'm convinced it was gas.
A gas leak.
Yeah, well, it was new. And
yeah.
And that's when you see a lot of like ghost sightings. They go up like once gas pipes go into houses. That's when you start seeing that rise. It's a very sharp incline. More people start reporting it because they're all suffering from poisoning.
Gas inhalation. I wonder if that I'm sure there is some correlation between like why all ghosts are like Victorian ghost people.
Yeah, it's like I can understand when they're like, oh, it's the 15th century and there was a ghost on the moor. You're like, yeah, because it's foggy. Like,
yeah.
You probably saw a deer. Yeah, it's fine.
Plus the gas added, so you've got these people who are seeing things, who think they're seeing things because the marvels of modern science that they don't actually know is science, and then you're like, let's add some gas, and then that's how you get Victorian ghost children.
But then you've also got the houses are made of wood, so like, oh, the floorboards were creaking. Yeah,
your house is wooden, my friend.
Like, oh, I felt a chill. I don't think you've got double glazing. Like, you know what I mean?
I think there might be a gap in your log cabin there, friend.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're such a skeptic, Katie. And I'm like, no. See, I say that. I'm like, oh, no, it's not real. But I used to live in this Victorian house. And just because of where I lived, because everything's old. And so the hallway was massive. And it would creak because nothing had been fixed since the 1970s. Yeah. So I'm running through the house going, ghosties, 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 ghosties. Under the covers. I'm fine. Not you. Under the covers.
Exactly. You're not superstitious. You're just stitious.
Just stitious.
Just a wee bit stitious.
Just like, I know you can be overwhelmed and underwhelmed, but can you ever just be whelmed?
Whelmed?
Yeah, it's yeah. I will be convinced there's spooky things out there, like when I'm in it. But
Yeah.
out with that, I'm like, no. And then I'm like, ghosting.
Yeah. I am a social scientist. I do not believe in ghosts. There must be a reason. Also, I heard a creak. I need to get under my cover so the monsters don't eat me.
Yes. I was like, there's going to be, like, I remember as a kid, I was convinced that there was a vampire outside my bedroom window when it was just like a tree tapping on it. Kids' imaginations are fun.
They are fun. So we've got possible gas leaks to making this guy think that he sees something, these two children.
And then, yeah, he basically has to, but somehow, once this other sarcophagus is brought in, I think he actually ends up moving house as well. He ends up, like, putting all three together in a museum so that they're together. And he's like, once they're together, he's like, I'm not plagued by this anymore. And it's like, I feel like it might be in your subconscious a wee bit.
I feel like maybe you feel a little bit guilty, but that's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, the Victorians had a wee obsession with, they had they had Orientalism. I can say words. Orientalism. It's very late. I'm very sorry. Orientalism, and they're invading everywhere, stealing all their spices, not using any of it for the cooking, but they're going in there anyway, right? Salt and pepper. Ooh. So spicy.
Let me just look at this cinnamon that I killed a half of a population for. Anyways.
Chives. So it's just really, they're kind of spreading out and they're taking over places, and then they get Egypt fever. So the thing about Egypt is because it's so close to sort of the European continent, it's actually it's quite an easy, area to traverse, especially if you have armies and you like just taking over places.
Yeah. Colonialism.
Yeah. So like Britain especially, there's just Egypt fever. People are convinced that mummies are doing all this stuff. Like medicinal cannibalism is huge.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm always talking about medicinal cannibalism. Let me tell you, but when they ate mummies, they were like, they thought a cure for epilepsy was, one of them was ground mummy, powdered skull of ground mummy. It was cocoa powder and then milk. And they were just like, it's like hot chocolate,
milk?
But with
cocoa powder and milk.
So it was like a hot chocolate, but with human remains in it. So yeah, they used to have mummy burning parties. Like they would just, and then it actually led to a point where in Egypt, like if somebody just died, they would just wrap them up in mummy bandages and sell them to tourists.
Oh my god!
But like they would sell mummified cats, mummified people. It was a whole thing, and people were grave robbing at this point as well because people were so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And this is all the way through like the 19th century, so all through the 1800s when they're really kind of really invading and really just like I don't know, stealing resources and whatnot,
just taking stuff that doesn't belong to them.
What? The British Museum, you say? So
did I say the quiet part out loud?
So you've got these explorers because white English men, they like to explore.
Yeah.
And they have a need, a desire for this for some reason. I must go to the place and I must find the things and they must write my name in a book. Yeah. And I'll be important then. And they discover the Valley of the Kings. And that's when shit really gets bad, because that's when they actually meet the decent, I say the big ones. Like Ramses III, his tomb is actually built on top of Tutankhamun's. I'd like to apologize if anyone is from Egypt and I am mispronouncing things. It's probably going to happen.
It's okay. If it's too poorly mispronounced, we'll just insert like Google pronunciation, putting something in there. It's fine.
It's fine. It's like, also, you say that Google has lied to me about pronunciations so many times.
That is very true. That is very, very true.
And a lot of the time they literally have English translation in American, or a pronunciation in American pronunciation. And I'm like, it's a Belgian word. Like, what's the Flemish? Like, let me do this right. But yeah, you've got George Herbert, who is the 5th Earl of Carnarvon.
Okay.
I have trouble saying Carnarvon. Don't ask me why. It's a weird one to say. It's very round in the mouth. So 1917, he's in Egypt, and he is desperate to find this tomb. They're searching everywhere over the Valley of the Kings, and they're digging down until they hit rock, effectively, like all over the shop, just because they're desperately trying to find this tomb.
Yeah.
Because as other graves are being like looted, they're finding like cups with like Tut on it. And at this point, Tutankhamun, he was erased from history. So Akhenaten was his dad, I believe. Or insert correct name here.
Editing TK, please take care of this. Thank you very much.
Editing TK here. Google says it's Akhenaten. Okay, enjoy the episode. Bye.
Thank you, TK. So Tutankhamun, his dad, basically the advisor after that and a few people after them basically wanted to wipe them from history. So statues were destroyed, pottery was destroyed. And the fact that Tutankhamun, his tomb is so small because he became king at 9 and he died at 19. And they don't know why. There's theories of it being like a bone disease, of it being a chariot disaster, and another one was malaria. Like they thought it was going to be one of those options. And so the theory is that he was building his tomb, but because he died so young, he wasn't finished. So he ended up in sort of the next available one. It's like the paint in it wasn't dry when they sealed it. So it was still being done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was a certain mold on the paint in the hieroglyphics, which is how they could tell.
Whoa, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I know. See? Mold.
Mold. We love it.
And he was actually buried with a toy duck as well. He loved ducks. Like he loved ducks. Like we know that from all the writings that were found afterwards. But like, and he was buried with a little toy duck. And I think that says more when you think about, we already know, he had a club foot and that he had so many other issues. So like, who knows what else could have been going on there.
Yeah. Oh, and he was just a little boy that loved little duckies.
Yeah.
And he just happened to be the pharaoh.
Basically, yeah.
Oh, little tut.
So yeah, they're finding all this information about like they're like, there's got to be another king here, and they're like, but he's not in the records, and they're like, he's here somewhere. And so he's so desperate, and it gets to the point where I think it's 1921. So he's 4 years he's been searching for this tomb, and it gets to the point where he's like, just give me a couple more months. I'm convinced I'm close.
Yeah.
And then in 1922, dunk, they're like, what's this step? And they start digging through, and there's more steps that lead down, and they're like, oh, well, this looks like it's been already opened, because it looks like it's been opened and then plastered.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. I mean, we'll go in anyway. And they get, and they're like, oh, okay, this is somebody important, and yet in such a small tomb.
Yeah.
And one of the guys gets gifted a mummified hand with a scarab on it. And the bracelet said, "Cursed be he who moves my body. To him shall come fire, water, and pestilence." So the 29th of November, 1922, tomb is opened. And there are, I think, 14 people actually enter it in total. Including the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, George J. Gould, who is just like a visitor, Arthur Mace, who's part of the excavation team, Captain the Honourable Richard Bethel, who's
great name,
who's Howard Carter's secretary, and then you've got Howard Carter. Also, I've mixed them up. The Earl of Carnarvon, he was the backer and he was there. But Howard Carter is the one who was like, just give me a couple months. I'm going to find it. The two of them are looking, and then they find it, and it's great.
Yeah.
So they believe there's a possibility that there's a fungus that was in the tomb as well.
Okay.
Called Aspergillus flavus. It's basically this fungus which could, it's bad. It can poison you. And they think that may have been there or something similar to it. And like there's a theory that they were booby trapped, like some of the tombs are booby trapped, and with poison and things like that, just to stop grave robbers and whatnot. There's this whisper that starts happening, that if you disturb the mummy, if you've disturbed this king, death comes to all, sort of. And then people start dying.
Oh no.
I know. It starts off with the Earl of Carnarvon, who he dies nearly just over 4 months after the tomb is opened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so he dies. And everyone's like, oh no, there's a curse, and it hits the newspapers. And the
Okay.
newspaper just goes like all over the world. Like they're Morse coding it. It's going
Yeah.
everywhere. People are sending telegrams. They're panicking. They're like, oh no. And who finds this information? But Mussolini, Benito Mussolini, who owned a mummy, had a mummy in his possession. And this news hits Italy. And he's like, get this out my house. Get rid of it. Be cursed. Like he's convinced he's going to be cursed.
Yeah.
Arthur Conan Doyle,
Mm-hmm.
who, writer of Sherlock Holmes,
Mm-hmm.
he starts writing about it. He's like, elementals are going to come after everybody who entered the tomb.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And briefly explain to me what elementals are.
Ghosty stuff.
Just ghosts. Okay,
Basically, it's
1920s ghosts.
basically it's ghosties. It's wee ghosties is what it is. And he's just like, but it's like because Arthur Conan Doyle is a spiritualist, and he believed the fairy pictures, and I've looked at those pictures and I've gone,
Arthur.
really?
Arthur.
It's like Houdini was consistently trying to like show Arthur Conan Doyle that spiritualists and that were fake, mediums were fake. And Arthur Conan Doyle was like, I believe them, and he's like, don't.
I do believe in fairies. I do
that all the time. I'm like, and I'm like, y'all have seen Hook, right? And everyone goes, no. And I'm like, how dare you?
An affront to society. Anyways, go ahead.
So George Herbert, the Earl of Carnarvon, he dies on 5th of April 1923 from sepsis, effectively. Or I think there's I'm not sure if it's sepsis exactly. It is a blood poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a streptococcal poisoning of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is he gets a mosquito bite, and then he decides to shave. And because he shaves, he opens the wound and it gets infected.
Oh no, okay.
And then he dies. So it's like, but it takes him a few weeks, and then he dies from the basic. It's basically blood poisoning.
Yeah.
And so he dies, and you're like, okay, that's 4 months after.
Like it's like a weird way to die.
It's a weird coincidence. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just, this seemingly healthy man is suddenly dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And then George J. Gould I, who again was a visitor to the tomb, he's in the French Riviera.
Okay.
In May of that year. So 1 month after George is dead, right? Mm-hmm. Second George number 2. Mm-hmm. He's got a fever suddenly come on him in the French Riviera.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got this fever, and he's not doing great. He's not doing great. And after a couple days, this fever he succumbs to it and he dies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's less than 6 months after the tomb. So I mean, that's two sudden deaths. And you think, and then you're thinking, geez, they must be getting faster. No, they don't, because it takes another 5 years for the next person to die.
Okay.
Yeah. So Arthur Mace, he dies in April 1928 from pleurisy and pneumonia.
Okay.
And he was known to have had like lung conditions for years.
He was just a sick guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, it's mysterious. He died of a mysterious disease that had all of the markers of pneumonia. Like, what could it be?
Whoa!
Spooky. I was just like, all right.
Okay.
It feels. I mean, it's within it's within 6 years of the tomb opening. I mean, 3 people are dead out of the 14. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The captain, the Honourable Richard Bethel, I'm going to always say his full name, just so you know. He dies in bed the following year in 1929.
Okay.
He's in bed in the Mayfair Club, where he has been, well, I can tell you what he dies of. He dies of a severe case of the murders.
Murder? Oh, no.
Yeah,
I
because
hate that.
I know, it's like everything's going well, and next thing you know, you've got a case of the murders. It's a wee shame. Because he's smothered. Like, he's in bed in the Mayfair Club, and he's smothered as he sleeps.
Oh my gosh.
But
do we know who smothered him?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, it's a mystery.
That's crazy. Maybe it was King Tut and his little His little ghosty.
Him and his duck.
Him and his duck just murdering people. All I wanted to do was play with ducks, and I had to be Pharaoh.
Don't make us bring the goose. So the last person, well, Howard Carter, he dies in 1939.
Okay.
So like, which is, I don't know, math, 16 years after the tomb is opened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going on a wee bit, to be honest.
That's a long time.
So, I mean, he was 64 and he did have Hodgkin's disease. So I feel like that might have contributed to it.
Yeah, right?
So he's doing that. And like, they actually tried to contribute sort of Lord Carnarvon's daughter as one of the like cursed
individuals.
Because she was there when Lady Evelyn Beauchamp. Beauchamp.
Sure.
One of those is right. So she was there at the opening of the tomb. I mean, she was, because she would have been 22 at the time. And yet 21. She'd been 21 at the time. And she died in 1980. So I feel like it took a while.
Yeah.
It was like,
this curse is a slow burn.
It's a slow burn for this one. It's just, I love it. It's like, I'm going to take my time. I need a break. The smothering was tough, right?
Yeah.
And then I had to make Hodgkin's happen, and it was just the whole thing. Yeah. And now I'm tired. And I'm going to play my duck for a while, and then I'm going to come back, and you can just die in 1980. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's okay. She was 78, so I mean, she had a good life.
Yeah, you know, it's easier to curse and kill elderly people, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a swift end, but the mummy got them. Did they?
Did the mummy get them, guys? Or did people just die of natural causes at an appropriate pace?
Whom's to say?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. So all of this to say that probably the curse of the mummy was not actually a curse of the mummy.
No. Yeah. Basically, was that a curse? No. But it actually had a negative effect for a little while on grave robbing, which was great. Because people were like, oh God, I'm gonna be cursed.
Yeah.
Because there was this, because the rumors started going around that, people were dying of mysterious deaths, and it's like old age, mosquito bites. Like, I feel like
so mysterious.
I think a lot of stuff is explainable. I love that though, because I spend a lot of time looking at things, and I think it's because I'm neurodivergent as well.
There's an argument device, or like a debate device, where it's like, I think it's a debate device, where it's like the easiest explanation or the most straightforward explanation is usually the one that is correct.
Usually,
the more convoluted the idea is, like, the less likely it is to have happened. And I feel like you could apply that rule to this whole curse situation. Like, okay, did a mummy come out of a tomb in Egypt and follow these people all the way back to England and smother them in their sleep? Or did a rando come in and kill them? Like,
like somebody else in the Mayfair Club. Like, could it possibly have been this?
Exactly. So we've got the King Tut's curse, which I think is one of the most famous ones. So apart from that, what other curses do we have, or did anything else happen because of this King Tut's curse?
Well, it did lead to a lot of popular culture. There was a lot of the sort of the penny dreadfuls of the era. We're just past penny dreadfuls at this point, but like, this is still a time where newspapers were just being like churned out and produced consistently, and so you were getting stories of the mummy's curse, and the mummies were going to come and get you, and then that led to, like, when the silent movie era came about, like, that's where you get that sort of spooky side, and also you could pay anybody to be a mummy, so it didn't really matter who your actor was.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So that was really, really handy. But it was just, I love Egyptology and sort of the Victorian obsession with Egyptology.
Yeah.
even though at that point I think we're sort of Edwardian, I think at that point. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's just this obsession with it, and how their curiosity was more important than, you know, this sacred burial.
Yeah.
Like, these people were buried with care,
Yeah.
and he had his duck.
I
He had his duck.
know.
He just wanted his duck.
That's all he
And
needs.
so, and they're just like, oh well, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah.
It's like this thing for I'm gonna sidestep to this for a second. You know how there's this whole concept of Cleopatra's tomb?
Yeah.
And they're like, come and help us try and find it, or come go into it. And I'm like, seems really unethical to me.
Seems like you should have a degree. It seems like maybe you should have some sort of like schooling to go in.
Just perhaps you should know the difference of this. So
Yeah,
maybe,
I know. I feel weird about it as well. Like, as much as I want them to find Cleopatra's tomb, I have such mixed feelings about that. About if for any delicious donuts out there who are not aware of the situation, the woman, I forget her name, who is in charge of the excavation, is asking for volunteers, and I do believe they have to pay. No.
Yes.
Yes.
So you're not even volunteering.
Yeah.
You're paying to work for her.
Exactly. You're paying to work for her and to go and dig. And I haven't looked at the application process. I will put some information about it in the show notes to give more context, but I'm pretty sure that all you need is a checkbook to be able to join this excavation team. So
A bit sus, personally.
yeah, it's us. Not my favorite thing in the world, but back on track. We digress. So we've got King Tut's curse. We've got Egyptomania. We've got people freaking out about all of these curses coming into popular culture. You know, I think some of the first black and white, silent movies, which is they're black and white. What are you talking about, TK? You know, some of the first ones have mummies in them.
Yeah,
And
the Mummy's Curse, I think, is one of them that's literally called the Mummy's Curse.
Yeah. So we've got all of that coming into pop culture. So in reality, the Mummy's curses are not actually there, but it's become such a huge part of pop culture that I feel like it has become a reality.
It's like that thing of, you know, the monkey paw. How the monkey paw is gonna... You've heard about it?
No.
You're looking at me so confused.
Tell me about the monkey paw.
There's this curse of a mummified monkey paw, and it's supposed to bring... You're supposed to make a wish, but you're supposed to have however many digits a monkey has, 4 or 5, I don't know. And then whenever a finger would curl down every wish, but it would be like a genie. So it would be a wish, but it would be, I want everything I touch to, you know, turn to gold.
Yeah.
And then if you touched yourself, you turn to gold too. Like, you know, I mean, like, it would be, there would be malicious compliance as effectively.
Malicious compliance wishes.
That's what wishes are. It's magic with malicious compliance. Like, that's what it is. And so the mummified monkey paw would just, it would curl down every single time you made a wish. And then the curse would come for you, and the monkey paw would come for you. Like, it's one of those things. It's that came into popular culture, and then another thing that it spurred on as well, especially in the sort of 1920s, like the moment that King Tut's tomb was found, is it led to fashion. So I'm sure you've seen that sort of very sort of Egyptian-inspired fashion.
Yes,
it's beautiful. It's amazing. But the problem is, as I have such a personal, like, love-hate relationship with it, because it's so beautiful and I want to wear it. And I wanna have it. But it's so colonial.
Right.
I'm being a bit of a dick, even if it's like, it's not the Roaring Twenties with this sort of triangular jewel necklace thing. It's very colonialist and, you know, oppression of people.
Yeah. It's hard. I know. I go back and forth on things like that as well. So you're not alone in this moral
Like
dilemma, Katie.
appreciation and
Yeah,
appropriation, and it's trying to
appropriation.
find that right, not the
Yeah,
right balance, because you don't want to balance appropriation, but like
yeah,
make sure you're on the right side of the scale, effectively.
exactly. Yeah, completely, totally. So, wow, Egyptian curses in our world, they are among us.
They are. You know what? If a monkey ball shows up in my house today, I'll be like, oh, okay, clearly I'm cursed. It's fine.
I did get cursed. Oh no. Well, you are renovating your house right now, so maybe you'll find something in the walls.
If I find a monkey paw, I'll be like DMing you, being like, look at this.
I found this monkey paw. But like, don't send me the monkey paw.
I love spooky things, but the thing is, I love spooky things, but I'm such a scaredy cat. I can't watch it alone anymore. Like I'm like, no.
No.
So I need someone to watch it with me and to protect me from the ghosties.
Exactly. So they don't eat your feet. That's the thing that I'm most afraid of.
That's oddly specific for a hypothetical.
I don't know. I think when I was a kid, I was just so afraid that like I had this deep fear that there was going to be a monster under my bed and it was going to grab my ankles and pull me under. That was the thing that I was.
That's a really common fear.
Were you also afraid of that? Are other people afraid of this?
Well, it's a very common. It's lots of people are. I've seen the trope about it so many times, and I was like, okay, no, I get it.
Yeah.
But and it's because anything could be under your bed, and if something grabs you, like it's an unseen thing that can get you from behind.
Exactly.
So, like, and that's where a lot of it is.
Yeah.
It's why I never trust any movie when the fridge opens.
Oh no.
And I'm like, no. And then if the fridge closes and there's nothing there, I'm like, oh, she's gonna die. That's definitely someone's gonna die, because like if there isn't a jump scare here, it's a death.
No jump scare equals death.
Yeah. Like I watched The Others when I lived in the Victorian house. Don't do that.
Why did you do that to yourself?
I know. I was like, oh, it's fine. It's got Nicole Kidman in it. I love Nicole Kidman. It's great. And so I was watching it, and then I realized I had to get from the sitting room to my bedroom in a creaky old house, and my bedroom had bay windows as well. Yeah. So I had bay windows with the curtains.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I was like, and because the way the street light was outside, it looked like there was somebody standing in the bay window. And I was like, and I'm under the covers trying not to have a panic attack. Just going,
this is fine. Everything's
fine.
There's no such things as ghost. It's okay. I've got the protective blanket over me. Yeah. Well, clearly, to bring it back to the curses, all of these people didn't have their protective blankets.
Clearly not.
They weren't using it.
I mean, he definitely didn't bring it to the Mayfair Club, so...
Yeah, exactly. So that's why you always sleep with blankets, a protective blanket.
I feel like, wouldn't you hear Tutankhamun coming? I'm just thinking he's got a club foot.
Right?
So I'm just thinking, would he not have, like, one heavier...
You would hear the clopping?
Yeah, so, like, would one foot not be... Because, I mean, I have a leg that's a little bit longer than the other. I do. So, like, I'm very aware that one foot makes a heavier sound than the other. So I'm thinking, maybe.
Yeah. No? Who knows?
But I mean, ghosts are quiet, I guess, unless they don't want to be.
And then they're loud. So, well, we know about the curses. We know this series of people that died at very reasonable times from some unexpected and some very, very much expected diseases that caused this huge phenomenon, and probably because of this gave us those delicious mummy movies from the early 2000s. So in that way, we appreciate
yes. I am here for the Mummy and the Mummy Returns. We don't speak about the third one. That doesn't exist. That being said, if Brendan Fraser came back to do another one and they just did it and pretend the third one didn't happen, and Rachel Weisz came back, yes,
1,000%.
Have you seen my Brendan Fraser t-shirt?
No.
Oh my goodness, I've got a Brendan Fraser t-shirt that says "The Mummy, more like the daddy."
Yeah.
And it's a picture of Brendan Fraser from The Mummy in it. And I was like, I saw it online and I'm like, I need to own this.
Right.
Along with a t-shirt which has a unicorn riding on the back of a dinosaur that says "To the disco." It means nothing. It means nothing. And I was like, I need this. Random.
Right. I love a nonsense shirt. That is so good. Well, this is our plea to the universe for the real official third Mummy movie. We're just going to ignore the actual third Mummy movie and put it out there in the universe. Brendan Fraser, I know you're listening. Can you?
Brendan Fraser loves this podcast. What are you talking about? He's your biggest fan.
He was a delicious donut. He listens all the time and he loves it. So please, I call him Bren. That's my nickname for him.
Yes,
Bren, if you're listening, you can get an actual third Mummy for us.
Oh, we would love that. Like, honestly.
It would be great.
It would have to be set in like the 60s, wouldn't it? Because of the age difference of where he is now.
Yeah.
Ooh,
60s mummies. Disco mummies.
Disco mummies.
I love it. Well, Katie, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about this air quotes curse. We loved it so much. I feel like I speak for all the delicious donuts. We had a great time. Thank you so much. And if the History BFFs want to listen to more of you, where can they find you? What are you doing? Here's your time to plug your stuff, my friend.
Well, I am bloody everywhere, to be honest. You'll find me on Instagram, TikTok, less so these days, but Instagram, TikTok. There is a Facebook, but I don't really use it too much. I post because I forget. It's the ADHD. I have a Patreon, which has you can get on for free. But I do also have like a €1, $1 tier, and you get access to a bunch of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. I do a Who Done It What Now, where I read old mystery novels, so one chapter at a time. So that's on the Patreon and stuff like that too. And I'm on tour this year. So I've got one more Glasgow show because the last one was sold out. So I've got a new Glasgow show and it's in an accessible location. And I've got later on this year I've got Newcastle, Edinburgh, and Cork in Ireland.
Wow.
That's I had to think for a second. I was like,
well, I will put all of the links to all of that in the show notes. So if you are in Edinburgh, Cork, or the other places, which I'm very jealous of you can go see Katie's show. So
I'm actually really funny in real life.
Yeah. Well, you're funny today too. So
I don't know. I'm sleep deprived.
I know. It's almost like 2 a.m. for Katie. So we are going to close the episode there. Thank you so much. Go on over to Katie's podcast and all of her things. Who Did What Now? It's an excellent time. Again, she is your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. And we will see Katie maybe again. And hopefully you'll see her on her own podcast. So thank you so much, Katie. And we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. And we'll see you in the outro. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're done. Thank you so much for joining us for our first guest episode of the season, dear one. Katie is so fun. She's so great. That woman is just a history freaking powerhouse. Her Instagram is incredible. Her podcast is incredible. And she also has a book deal. She got a book deal. She has a book that's coming out, date to be determined, but I'll leave all the information in the show notes below. It was an absolute pleasure to have her on. She sacrificed her sleeping time to be here with us. So please go show her some love and appreciation on all of her socials. And let me know what you thought of this episode by leaving a rating or review or one of the little questiony thingies on Spotify. We are 30 reviews away from reaching our 200 rating and review goal. I couldn't be happier. I'm so excited. It's such a fantastic way to support the podcast, and I really appreciate you taking the time to leave a rating and / or review, preferably both. If you'd like to support the podcast in other ways, you can head on over to Patreon. We got some really cool stuff over there. You can donate to the For the Love of History app, which is linked down below. You can go get yourself some super cute merch. There's about 1 month left for the TED Special Edition merch t-shirt design, so head on over there. And yeah. Oh, before you go, I just need to tell you, that it is almost August, which is spooky season here in Japan, and it also just so happens to be my birthday month, okay? Which is the perfect combination because I am a spooky gal. Despite my bubbly rainbow sunshine exterior, I have the heart of a spooky Victorian ghost child. So to have a spooky season during my birthday month is fantastic. And to celebrate both spooky season and my birthday, we will be doing some extra special Japanese yurei, which means ghost, and yokai, which means like demony thingies, over on Instagram. We'll also be doing some special events over on Patreon. So make sure to stay tuned to check those out. And I will see you next week for our very first episode of August, and you know it's gonna be spooky. We're talking about the Shinto underworld. So until then, take care of yourself, do something that makes you happy, drink your water. I'm gonna take a little sippy sip right now. And I will see you next week. Okay, I love you so much. Bye.